Thank you for joining our webinar with Logicalis today. My name is Nirav Shah. I'm on the security product marketing team here at Cisco. And we're here to talk about how we can help you to bridge the cybersecurity skills gap with SOC and MXDR or Managed XDR. We're here with the Logicalis team as well as the Cisco team. And I just wanted to thank you again for joining. We hope to have a really great conversation today. Like I mentioned, my name is Nirav Shah. I'm on a security product marketing team. We're joined here by Albert Salazar, our Director of Go-to-Market Readiness for Cisco. We have Marty Moore, who's on our cybersecurity solution specialist at Logicalis. And we have Arthur Martins, who's a CISO for cybersecurity strategy executive advisor at Logicalis. And just wanted to give all of our panelists a chance to introduce themselves, talk about their roles, responsibilities, maybe a little bit more about what excites them about cybersecurity. I'll hand it off to Arthur. Arthur, would love to hear more about your background.
Sure. Hi. So my name is Arthur Martins, and I am CISO for Logicalis Portugal and also a cybersecurity advisor for the board. So basically my background is all around security. I work a lot in the SOC services and all the security technologies that you can think of, and also on pen testing services and some GRC services. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. Marty, can you tell us a little bit more about your background as well?
Yeah, sure. So I I'm the lead for the Global Solutions COE, and my team works with the Logicalis regions very closely, also with our strategic partners to build scalable solutions that can be used anywhere within the Logicalis regions.
Awesome. And Albert, last but definitely not least, can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Sure. Albert Salazar, Director of Go-to-Market. My team's responsible to work closely with partners, work with this Cisco sales organization, ensuring that they're prepared to successfully position and drive our technologies within Cisco. My background is I've been with Cisco for about 13 years. Started in the sales organization, have been part of the go-to-market team within the what we call the security business unit at Cisco for the last 5 years.
All right. Sounds great. Well, so let's kind of just dive right in. One topic that, I think is top of mind for almost all of our customers these days, and a lot of our partners as well, of course, is the cybersecurity skills gap, which has been ongoing for several years now. This is something that we hear about all the time, but it's really hard to kind of grasp it. Arthur, can you tell us a little bit more about how does this manifest for organizations on a day-to-day basis? What does it look like? What are some of the real world consequences of the skills gap?
Sure. I mean, so as we all know, security is evolving in such a way that you need to come up with solutions to defend. Every day, new types of attacks come in, and more threat actors are online and active. So for companies that want to defend themselves, they get to a problem where they have each time more technologies and more products to take care of, but then they need people specialize in those technologies, and either they try to train someone internally or they have to hire. And when you go to the market to try to hire someone specialist on this technology or that technology, they are quite expensive and rare. So at this moment, there are not enough technical specialists on each type of security product that you can find on the market. Also, you have another issue internally, because you will then need coordinators or people that have the bigger vision of the security of the company. So if you can manage to hire all those specialists for each type of technology, you still need someone to take care of the risk as a whole. So some broader vision on what is happening, what security controls you already have, and you have teams for it, and how does that fit on your internal risk management or your compliance management for example, an ISO 27001 or something. So you actually need all the types of security specialists, not only from technology, but from incident response and also from risk perspective, and fit them all together to a company. So this makes it very, very hard to our customers. The impact of this is that they don't have the budget to hire those specialized teams. And it's very, very hard to justify all the budget that is necessary to invest, or let's say to hire every specialist needed for all these tasks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Marty and Albert, do you have anything that you'd like to add there? Anything additional from your perspective?
I would say on my side, when I think about the shortage that we're dealing with today, a lot of it has to do with as new graduates, as new analysts are entering into the field, the turn is very, very quick. As soon as they get a little bit of knowledge and expertise, they move on to the next role with greater responsibility. The threats are not slowing down, as Arthur said. They're expanding every day. They're coming at us from every angle. And now with the introduction of AI has changed that game significantly. So in many ways, as AI helps, us in our role on the security side, it's also helping the threat actor. It's enabling them to move much quicker with a lot more agility than they've had in the past. So we have to keep one step in front of them. So we need that expertise. We need more skills to the forefront. And there just simply isn't enough in the market available to us. And AI is still very early in its integration into the SOC and cybersecurity world. It will help, it will augment, but it will not replace the skills of the cybersecurity needs out there today.
Yeah. And Marty, do you have anything else that, any other perspectives from your side?
Yeah, I think just listening to Albert and Arthur is just, we've seen it in the real world. Just some examples of what we've seen is just companies, usually traditionally a company we worked with a couple of years ago, they had a global presence. So they were in multiple countries, multiple time zones, and they had a central SecOps team, which is really small and tight. And they were built for business hours, not 24/7. And as you can understand, as we said, the threat actors doesn't stick to business hours and different time zones, and they got breached. And that was exactly, it wasn't that they weren't skilled, but there were just not enough resources around to be able to cover the 24/7, where something could have at least been detected earlier or prevented altogether. And another customer, we also, I think Arthur alluded to it, about just the vast amount of skills that you need with the different tools. We had a customer that had all the tools, all the latest, greatest phishing tools, anomaly detection tools and things like that, and they got breached through a phishing attack. And going into the root cause analysis of that, we found that yes, the tools were there, they were installed, but it wasn't configured correctly, and it was a misconfiguration, which is also a very common use case as well. And just looking at some of the stats around that, where I think they said something like average company has 83 different tools, security tools, with from 30 different vendors to keep up with the different tools. And then, as Arthur said, have somebody to manage that process end to end is very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've introduced through all the different vendors, the niche technologies required to defend themselves against, the multiple vectors in which the threat actors are hitting us at. It's become very, very difficult. And thus, this is where the managed XDR solutions come in. They can support customers across multiple different sizes. We are a small organization, a public sector organization with limited operational hours and limited budgets. You can, move to a managed service to help fill those gaps. So there's a lot of opportunity out there for us, to take advantage of. Customers are at constant risk.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I think customers need to look at managed services to really help with the skills shortage and really help stem the gaps that they're dealing with right now. And kind of leading into the next question is, For Marty, can you talk about a real life example, a real world example of the cybersecurity skills shortage? Do you have an organization that you've engaged with recently where the skills gap was impacting them? We'd love to kind of hear more about that.
Yeah, I think building on the example that I used earlier about the company that was actually the SecOps teams were built for business hours and not 24/7. Working with this customer, we augmented it initially just to be able to fill that time, the 24/7 or the after hours time for them. So not necessarily replacing that function completely, but just the after hours. That was the one part. And then also in that particular customer, we installed XDR, Cisco XDR for them. And also were able, because of the skills that we have within Logicalis, we could build out specific use cases that fed into their business processes, which helped them. And as we walked over the last while with this customer, we now fully support them 24/7, which allows their SecOps teams to focus on other internal security considerations as well. So it's also a journey. You know, not every customer starts at the same place. But not just that, we augment a lot working with the MSP in the MSP sphere for a long time. I've also seen how they can leverage our skills to learn as well. You know, sometimes the SecOps teams have some experience, but maybe not the broad experience that you have when you work for MSP or managed service partner. And working as part of a team, we actually become a team with them. They learn from us, we learn from them, and it's mutually beneficial in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Arthur, anything else, any other examples you can think of, or would you like to comment on kind of this example as well? Just wanted to kind of hear your perspective too.
Yeah, Narav, basically this is happening to us daily. So we have lots of customers that are really looking for the externalization of the operations because they can't even know how to start on hiring new specialists for their internal, needs, for the know-hows and technologies that they have. So basically, I see now we are in the step, and we'll talk about it in a few moments, about the managed services and the SOC, et cetera, because customers kind of quitted the chance to try to hire specialists. They really need some help from providers like us to help them build services around their needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I would add that on Arthur's point, that mean time to respond. Our customers don't have the luxury of, working with somebody who's very junior that could extend that time. They need that immediate response. That threat is real. The impact to their business is real. And, relying on that expertise that could come through a managed SOC offering will help bridge that gap for them until that skill set gets up.
Yeah. And Albert, I think that kind of leads into builds off the next question as well, which is, how can a managed SOC or kind of a global 24/7 SOC help an organization? What are some of the outcomes they can expect from an organization from this type of service, especially for an organization that's struggling with, having a limited in-house security staff?
Yeah, so this comes to, you can look across various different sectors, let's say, or segments. Many smaller organizations have, as Marty called out, very limited hours. So whether it's a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but threats are 24/7.
Right.
They're present all the time. So being able to provide an augmented service in the sense that, okay, you're off at 4 or 5. And then, the third party comes in, manages until they're back in the office, organizes everything, puts everything in order so they know, hey, these are the threats in which you need to focus on. That's one area. Where we see a lot of, though, too, is augmented services in the context of threat hunting capabilities, where your skills, they've got a staff, but the staff skills may not be up to par. So how do they fill that gap? They may be able to understand what the threat is. They may be able to understand how to respond to that, but they might not understand the source of it or the impact or how that threat has moved within their environment east to west. The more you understand the incident itself, the better you are at protecting yourself in the future.
Of course, yeah.
Being able to bring that expertise in from augmented services will help you do just that. It's like, oh, you have an incident. Now let's understand, the root of that incident. How has that incident impacted my environment? And how do I respond and protect myself, not only at the present time, but in the future?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting point that you said, that it's not just about replacing security teams or even enhancing a security team, but it's more about augmenting them, where you don't have a 24/7 SOC. You need those capabilities. Arthur,
we're just small as well.
Yeah.
You deal in certain areas in public sector, the security teams are often small.
Right.
So they're small teams with big problems.
Yeah.
So they need help. And
Right.
the support of these managed services can help them bridge that gap as well.
Yeah, agreed. Arthur, I would just love to get your perspective as, you're managing a SOC, you're a CISO. What is your perspective on some of the benefits of a 24/7 SOC?
Well, actually, I think it's a win-win situation for both the providers, service providers, because they can gain from scale of having multiple customers, so a multi-tenant design, let's say, so they can probably hire specialists for different types of technologies. And for the customer, it's a way of externalizing the operations and also transferring some risks contractually to the service provider, but also guaranteeing 24/7 operations, a very mature incident response process, capabilities, and know-how, because the service provider will be doing that for several customers, so it will learn, it will be mature. Instead, on the other side, the customer will just probably have to deal with new issues, new technologies. And when they come up with specialists that deal with technology, they don't have the service specialists to design the processes around it. So it's actually very good for the customer to hire a full SOC service or a managed SOC service, because you not only gain the particularity about a tool or 2 or 3 tools, but you also gain the experience of the processes of the team. One of the most important things that we find and we can bring to a SOC customer is the way that we show them the reports, the KPIs, monthly, quarterly, yearly, the way that we show them how is their coverage on incident detection, how is their coverage on acquiring logs from their infrastructure and correlating them to new types of incidents. What is the incident distribution type that you can think? Because sometimes you see that you are not detecting this, and this types of incidents. And then you need to ask yourself, why? Because I don't have the technology for that.
Right.
Probably I don't. And I'm not looking at it probably. So, all of these types of situations require a mature approach to a SOC service. And that does not come from the technology specialists that they might hire. So they gain a lot of externalizing operations and gaining all the service, know-how that we can bring them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, a lot of it is almost like a network effect, right? Where if you're managing 10, hundreds of different customers, you get so much experience that you wouldn't necessarily have from just, being able to deal with one organization and one organization's environment, right? So that's an important point as well. Marty, I would love to get your perspective here as well. What are you seeing in some of the benefits from having a 24/7 SOC for a lot of your customers?
Yeah, I think what I've also seen from customers where a SIEM or SOC or whatever we use in the SOC has gone from, that tick box exercise as part of a regulation, when they actually have that in, and they don't do it, they do it with an experienced managed partner and a 24/7 SOC. Just how much insight they get, it may have just been, well, we need to comply with this regulation, but what they get out of that, as Arthur said, the reporting, even the insights is like, okay, well, we have this gap or this blind spot in our environment that we should bring in, and that's the experience that a managed service provider like Logicalis is bringing. They're not just taking it on, but it can also show you the blind spots as well.
Yeah. Marty, can you share a specific customer story? What were some of the challenges that this customer is dealing with? How did the Logicalis SOC help? And what are some of the lessons learned that we can pass on to our audience?
I think sort of alluding a little bit back to what we spoke of before, we've seen quite often that customers try to implement a SOC and the technologies around it. And it's similar to the example that I used earlier. You have all the right tools, you have it in there. Maybe it came with another product that you bought. Oh, well, we give you this tool as well. You put it in, you think you're covered and you're not, kind of thing. And I think I've seen it before where it's this tool is in a customer's environment. They think they're safe, they think they're secure, and they're not until that breach comes through and they're blindsided. What happened? Where did that come from? And I think that is the holistic view that is provided through a managed service, security managed service provider is just so valuable that and I think customers see that with a mature process of sort of understanding a customer's environment, onboarding them, monitoring, maturing them, not just from detection to remediation and things like that. So there's a wealth of experience behind that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point in that you said that it's not just about helping them detect and respond to threats, but how do you improve their overall security posture? How do you help them improve their overall security maturity as well, which is really what a lot of organizations are ultimately aiming to do in the long run, right?
Mm-hmm.
So last piece is, we hear a lot about technologies such as XDR or extended detection response. How do these types of technologies help empower the SOC team, and what are some of the benefits that they deliver to the customer? Arthur, I would love to hear from you first on this piece.
Yeah, no worries. So that's a big one. I'll try to be short and concise about my response. So to see the real I think best advantage of XDR, the action is the key here. So basically you need to understand that a typical incident may have the detection part, where actually XDR can help on detecting more because it has a lot of data from the endpoints, from the network, etc., but it can detect the incident. But then the incident goes to the analyst. And if the analyst does not have the capability of acting on infrastructure, blocking a machine or taking a machine out or blocking a user or blocking some VLAN, wherever, basically what happens is that the service will then throw a ticket back to the customer. So the customer will still need to have someone available 24/7 from their side to do the operations. And this goes against what we are talking here about, because it's the shortage of skills and of staff. So you actually are going to hire a service or to buy a service of a managed SOC, and then you end up on having to do the click on the button for the action, because they are remote. They can see the new incidents that something detected and correlated and reported. But then on the step of remediation or eradication of the incident, you actually just send an action to the customer to do. So what happens when you have XDR is that the analyst can act on infrastructure, on client's infrastructure. They don't need access to it. They don't need credentials. They don't need VPN access. Basically, with the XDR tool, they can throw back an action to the technologies for them to either lock the user, lock the machine, something to happen. So what are we talking here about? When you try to design an operational procedure or a playbook for a SOC service, you end up with this problem because you have detection, you have the analysis that is done from our side, and then on the action, probably you are asking the customer to do it. So the question comes that, do they have 24/7 capabilities? What happens if we have an incident with an infected machine during the night? So we will just send them a ticket, and then at 9 a.m. they will come up and say, oh my God, this is happening. I haven't done anything. I have to lock this machine out. So in a scenario where we have XDR together with the SOC, the analyst can figure out that that's an infected machine. The ticket goes to the customer, but it goes with a message saying that we are locking that machine. So when you wake up and you get to your computer at 9 a.m. and see the ticket, it's already contained, the incident.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's the biggest difference. I think it makes sense for the topic that we are discussing here, which is the staff shortage.
Yeah. I think the time to response is a huge one, right? And the fact that you don't necessarily have to get the customer involved necessarily, that's huge as well, because otherwise that defeats the point of having a 24/7 SOC, like you said. Marty, I would love to hear from you as well. How are you kind of viewing technologies like XDR, and how is that really working? How are the SOC team using these types of technologies to deliver better outcomes for customers?
Yeah, I think with tools like XDR with AI components built into it, it has a huge impact on us as Logicalis SOC, just our efficiency in our operations. So we can do more with less, which helps with skills shortage. Even for us working in the industry, we still deal with skills shortage. And what I love about tools like these unification or unified tools like XDR is, and with AI built into it, is the way we can upskill our analysts on the job. So while they're doing the job, there will be an analyst report coming, an AI report generated, but from there they can pivot into multiple different tools to dig deeper and learn. So they're learning on the job. They don't necessarily have to go to traditional course that they're going to now learn how to do threat hunting or how to deal with incidents or incident response. With these tools all built into one, it makes us more efficient. It's upskilling our analysts, and at the same time, it automates repetitive tasks, those things that are sometimes becomes a bit mind-numbing and monotonous, which doesn't help with staff satisfaction. So in a way, it helps us retain staff because they're getting to do the new and more exciting things what they believe security should be is new and exciting. So yes, there's a lot of things within XDR and the automation and the AI that's built into it that just makes analyst's life much easier and much more fun doing their job.
Yeah. It helps the SOC team essentially focus on more of the higher value tasks, right? Things that are going to move the needle a little bit more, it sounds like.
Right.
Albert, I would love to get, do you have anything else you'd like to add here on this piece?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it from a Cisco XDR perspective, and how does Cisco XDR, help the broader team, help the Logicalis team deliver their managed SOC services to the customer and up-level them. So we talked earlier about, the shortages. We talked about the various different skills needed. One of the things that Cisco XDR does right out of the gate is it helps prioritize those incidents. It correlates across multiple different vectors. So the network, the endpoint, identity, email, the cloud. These are all, vectors in which information is coming in, understanding, the as I like to say, the incident in a multidimensional view. This also allows or helps with alert fatigue, which is a real problem. Especially if you're sitting in a managed SOC and you've got, a customer we had a customer yesterday that I was talking to. We were just rolling out the managed SOC. So as we are, migrating over from a previous vendor to Cisco XDR, the very first thing that jumped out was they had 477,000 alerts.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And where
That's a lot, yeah.
So that alert fatigue, there's, false positives, it's just overwhelming. So prioritization and focus on those higher threats, as has been stated earlier, is really important. But the use of agentic AI. So AI in itself is very powerful and has been integrated as part of Cisco XDR to help summarize, the threats, help build response actions or playbooks in response to an incident. But agentic AI allows us to understand the threat hunting activity that was normally a very manual process that could take anywhere from hours to days, depending on the complexity of the incident. It can now be summarized to minutes. We can see from the moment and every step along the way in which, an incident has begun all the way to where it's at the present, as well as recommendations on how to respond to this. So that combination of tools, the prioritization, the use of agentic AI, the correlation, all these things that Cisco XDR brings to the table elevates the outcome and the quality that the Logicalis SOC team can provide their customers.
Right. This next question is for Albert, and we talked a little bit about this. So, we talked a little bit about Cisco XDR and kind of its approach. How does Cisco XDR and its approach to XDR, or Cisco's approach to XDR, enable Logicalis to deliver the outcomes it provides to customers?
Sure. So in addition to what I mentioned earlier, I would say one key differentiator is the open architecture of Cisco XDR. So what do I mean by open architecture? When you look at a lot of other vendors, the world of XDR has evolved a lot in the last 2 to 3 years. And we went, it all starts from the EDR, and it was an expansion of the EDR, or began from an NDR, an expansion of the NDR. When Cisco came into this market, the market was already matured. And we looked at it and saying, look, we don't have the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 EDR in the market. We have a very good product, but it is not market leading from a market share perspective or a revenue perspective. So we made the choice to, come at this as an open architecture. So we work with multiple different vendors. So from, let's leverage the EDR, for example. We can work with whether it's a CrowdStrike, a Microsoft, a SentinelOne. There's multiple vendors out there that we work with, and we treat as if it was a native Cisco XDR component. And we do that across the board, from the cloud, to email, to endpoint. So that's a key differentiator that we bring to the market today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point to bring in, is that network perspective and that network heritage that Cisco has, combined with the endpoint telemetry that you may have from your respective EDR vendor as well. That really gives you that full comprehensive visibility, right? That almost every organization really is looking for and needs. Arthur, anything else you'd like to add from your point or your perspective?
Oh, I think Albert just named one of the things that sounds most important to us, is the capability of XDR to even integrate with third-party tools, not from Cisco, not from the vendor. And as soon as you look into alternatives, you have some blockers there. Yeah. So Cisco quite stands out of the competition on that part.
Yeah, absolutely. And Marty, anything else you'd like to add from your side?
Yeah, I think Cisco, being such a strong networking company, I think something that stands out from Cisco XDR is the network telemetry that is brought into XDR natively, which is always a differentiator from a Cisco XDR point of view.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then our last question for this section is, Arthur, there's a lot of managed service providers in the market. What makes Logicalis's approach different? Why should a customer choose you?
Okay, so experience.
Feels like an interview question, right? So.
No, it's basically experience. Let me tell you. So the team that is now responsible for the SOC services has, it's 1 year from 2 decades of experience on SOC services. They weren't even named SOC back then. They were CSerts. Yeah. They basically had CMs and correlated data, and then it's all operations. So nowadays, when we look at the way that we provide the SOC services, and with or without XDR, but our SOC services, we start with the boring part, with the most difficult part, which is the processes, the playbooks, the responsibilities, the asset inventory for the customer. Yeah. And this is because we have found that from our experience, you cannot just plug and play a tool with such complexity and such capabilities of incident detection like XDR and expect that when things happen, that everyone knows what to do. So the trick, it's in the process, it's in the responsibilities or the playbooks to act from the analyst side to the customer side, and how they will, let's say, come up with the SLAs that you are expecting them to have. So time to respond and time to detect and time to respond. How are they being operationalized, let's say, from the teams, from both our side and from the customer side? So sorry for taking so long for this answer, but the answer is experience. We have lots of experience on SOC services. We know how they fail. It's not a matter of just throwing technology. Obviously, without technology, they will not work. But we have to talk about processes with the customer first. And that's a main differentiator. I still see big players on the SOC market just trying to set things up and let it go. And then obviously customers are not satisfied with the result.
Yeah. Marty, I'll let you answer this question as well and see if there's anything else you wanted to add from your side.
Not a lot. I think Arthur covered it, but I think also just our global reach. You know, we across the globe, we have SOCs and NOCs covering the whole globe. So it's not just in one region. And the great thing about that is we also have that deep knowledge in region as well with the services we build, the experience in region of the services we build.
Yeah. And I would add that Logicalis, beyond the depth and breadth that Marty just called out, it's the brand. You've got a very strong brand. And there's a reason that Cisco, is partnering with Logicalis. It's because of the value of the brand, the expertise that they bring to the table, the confidence that we have that they can address the needs and protect our joint customers.
Yeah, that's a really good point there. And I think that kind of gets us into kind of our closing thoughts. And I'll ask all of our panelists this, but I'll start with kind of each one is, if there's one thing you want our audience to remember from today's conversation, what is it? And Marty, I'll start with you.
I think I've read up a lot about the cybersecurity skills shortage, and I think we need to shift our thinking from our old ways of thinking of filling that gap and changing that gap in a couple of ways of doing things partnership with the Logicalis as a MSP, using tools to augment that so that we can do more with less. There are multiple things that we can do even with AI to upskill staff that we already have. I think there's a lot of fear around AI and people losing their jobs and things like that. But how about thinking about how we can use AI to reskill those individuals into cybersecurity roles potentially and things like that. So it's a lot of change happening in the industry, but I think there's great tools and great things that we can make use of to help us with a cybersecurity skills gap.
Yeah, absolutely. Arthur, I'll ask you the same thing. What's one thing you want our audience to remember from today's conversation? If they could remember only one thing, of course.
Yeah, I want them to remember that Logicalis is doing this on the right way. So we are providing the Cisco XDR services on a very, very mature way that will actually work. It's worth the investment. It's worth choosing Logicalis.
Yeah. Makes sense. And then lastly, I'll ask Albert the same question.
Yeah, I would say that, Logicalis has the ability to give peace of mind to our customers, to assure them that they understand that they're dealing with a world-class, market-leading partner in their managed SOC offering, and that they can rest, comfortably at night knowing that Logicalis is protecting them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think when we think of managed SOCs, a lot of people kind of tend to forget the biggest one, which is, hey, you can sleep better at night, right? You have somebody else, a trusted partner, who is watching your back and watching your environment to make sure nothing goes wrong, right? And that's something that it sounds a little bit more qualitative in that sense, right? It sounds more subjective, but it's an important one. And then final question is, any final words or advice for security leaders dealing with the cybersecurity skills gap in organizations? Arthur, I'll start with you.
Yeah, but basically, I think you need to map the requirements you have, the critical processes you have, critical tools, and who do you have to manage it. And then as soon as you can start putting things together and defining a nice block of needs, of operational needs, you should externalize it. It's the easiest, fastest way, and the way that brings you more maturity on what you need to be done with those systems or with those technology that you have. So basically, the word of advice would be, in order to fight the skills gap, you basically will need to externalize operations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Marty, any final words of advice from your side?
Yeah, I think just remember, you're not in this alone. There's partners out there. Ask for help. Look for that trusted partner. It's worthwhile. It's going to, as you say, as we spoke about it earlier, it's going to make you sleep better. And yeah, keep your customers safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, last but not least, Albert, any final words of advice for security leaders?
Do an honest assessment. Understand truly, as Arthur called out, what are your capabilities today? What are the gaps that you have? Being honest with yourself, understanding where you are at and where you need help is step one.
Yeah, totally agreed. Just wanted to thank all our panelists again for joining us today. I think we had a great conversation, and really appreciate everyone's time, and wanted to open up the floor for Q&A and see if there's any questions coming in from our audience that our panelists can help answer.